Testing 1 2 3, testing 1 2 3. All right, so the stream is currently up. It is July 30th, 2026 at 1:09 in the afternoon for me. Just make sure that the sound is working. All right, so the stream is good. So, as usual, what is the question is, what is the stream about? This stream is the process of acquiring academic skills, namely the ability to write quickly and efficiently, the ability to categorize information quickly, and the ability to recall information. These three basic skills of academic endeavors. And so the stream is essentially, it's almost, if you will, a gym session where I'm demonstrating the process of writing a text using Gregg Anniversary Shorthand. The text in question that I'm using is How to Take Smart Notes by Sonke Ahrens. Excellent book, first published in 2017 and then republished in, revised and expanded in 2022. And it is a book that goes into detail on the reasons why you should implement a style of note-taking called the slipbox technique or the Zettelkasten technique into your learning paradigm. The idea that every note should be turned into a permanent and complete note in your own words and then placed in some sort of schema which allows you to organize based on thematic material, regardless of the original source of the idea. Every idea should stand on its own, and every idea should be somehow linked to another idea. And that, in essence, is the slipbox technique. Currently about halfway through. We are on page 86 of the book, okay? And with that, let's go ahead and get started. If you're interested in grabbing a copy of the book, it is down below in the Amazon link. You can grab a copy. It's very affordable. It's about 150 or about 160 pages, I think, 174, and fairly easy to read. It's a little bit academic in its layout, a lot of references, and definitely more geared towards academic writing, but it would have great value for anyone who wants to write well, to think well, and to speak well. Honestly, it would be well worth your time. Okay. If you are interested in taking a look at the website that I use, you'll see I'm writing my notes on a digital pad using the Wacom Tablet, and I'm using Zernal++ is my note-taking application. Excellent piece of software. It's available on, they have a website on their GitHub page. That also is linked down below. And also, if you are interested in looking at my website, which you'll see I use it for my word lookup, then that is also available down below, okay? Bear in mind that I am by no means an expert in Gregg Shorthand. In fact, I'm not even a master. And so therefore, I do take a much longer time to produce the strokes, and it is rather painstaking. It is rather difficult to watch, but they say that, in fact, Feynman was just there was just a quote from Richard Feynman where he was saying that he could not understand something unless he gave an introductory lecture on it. And the philosophy behind these streams are ultimately that the idea that obviously I could do this sort of process on my own and just in the quiet and the solace of my own study room, but in essence I would not be taking full advantage of the opportunity of demonstrating the process, because the very act of demonstration is going to create more of an impetus and a drive to do better and to do more effectively in a shorter amount of time, okay? So that is essentially That's essentially the reason why I am taking the time to demonstrate the process of writing. I'm also taking the time so that I can become just extremely comfortable in front of a microphone with a camera on me, so that I have that skill built into me when it comes time to produce content of greater value. I already have a facility or a strength, if you will, in talking to myself in an empty room. Because after all, that is that is borderline insanity. And so the ability to learn how to do it and to learn to be comfortable doing it is something which I definitely lean on. I'm hoping to make more content going forward, especially in the areas of mathematics, learning strategies, as you see here. And so therefore, I need to become super just embedded in the system and ready to share information with you all. So with that, I think I have said my piece, and we will now start. Okay, let me just go ahead and get this on the charger. But really, in essence, these are very, very boring times, if you will. Just like if you were in the gym, you put in hours and hours and you forget about the hours. Now, if every single hour were recorded and available for you to view, well, then you would see just how much time was involved. And this is essentially the same thing. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and get started. And I am currently on page 87. I am on page 87 of, or no, we are on page 86. I take that back. Page 86 of how to take smart notes, currently on section 10, and 10.5, to be honest. All right, or to be clear. All right, here we go. He had just finished talking about how a lot of teachers, because they don't understand the necessity of true comprehension of information, they attempt to make information easy for people. They make it easy for people, and that ultimately is not the goal of a teacher or of an educator. An educator's job is to facilitate someone's acquisition of knowledge, and that means that you give the appropriate level of difficulty and the appropriate level of the appropriate environment in which someone's effort can build their own knowledge base. All right, so here's our next paragraph. It would be surprising if teachers changed the topic. So we're going to zoom down here and go in. It would be surprising. It would be surprising if teachers changed the topic in the middle of the lesson. If teachers changed the topic in the middle of a lesson. Moving on to the next chapter, moving on to the next chapter, to the next chapter, before anyone had the chance. Anyone had the chance to really understand the first one, to really understand the first one. only to come back to the previous topic later. Only to come back to the previous topic later. To the previous, I believe it's just previous, right? Or this is the one that didn't even require the E, I think. This one was previous, or is it just previous? Let's see what happens if we go previous. Check in the dictionary. Oh, go back over, boom. And there's no necessity for, there's no need for the U at the base, and there is a necessity though for the E. So we need previous, okay? Let's see, we were on only to come back to the previous topic later. Topic later. It would also be unexpected. It would be also unexpected. So this is unexpected. Let's see if that's correct. And let's switch out of segment mode because we want to see if unexpected. And that is indeed, so expect does not require the K. That's already implied in the brief form. So we can go ahead and get rid of that. So we're going to go unexpected, like so. And where was that? It would be unexpected. It would also be unexpected to test the students constantly. It would also be unexpected to test the students constantly. Let's see, constantly. I think that's going to be constantly. Does the S have to turn in the other direction? One thing I do want to check is test. Because test, and go back over here. Make sure we're out of segment mode. We want to be in make sure we're out of exact mode and we're in segment mode. And now we need test. And that's, I thought so. So test is just TES. But now constantly. Nope. Back over here. Constantly. And that is correct. Maybe just a little bit more of a sharp turn between the K and the S so that we can see that value. So we go constant and then ly at the end, okay? And going on. It would also be unexpected to test the students constantly, half of the time about things that weren't even mentioned yet. So comma, half of the time about things that weren't even mentioned yet. About things that weren't even mentioned yet. And mention is mentioned yet. Let's go ahead and check. I want to see if there we go. Let's check and see if mention has the D attached or detached. It is attached, okay? So let's go ahead and fix that. Remove the line here, and we drop this, go in and go out. And yet can now appear on the previous line. There we go. yet, because the y sound is a long, it's like a teardrop shape, okay? So there's yet. That weren't even mentioned yet. But as much as it would probably annoy the students, but as much as, now as more as move, because m more as m as doesn't make any sense. So we can just do as much, and as much as it would probably, but as much as it would probably annoy the students, but as much as it would probably, so we go probably, annoy, so we're going to go annoy, annoy the students, comma, who are used to having their material presented, so comma, who are used to having their material, and material requires an E between T and R. Material. And no need for the L. No need for the L, so it's just the E and then the R. Okay, so we'll put that back in here. Material, like so. But as much as who are used to having their material presented in neat categories, presented is PR, PRS, and then a disjointed T. Let's see if that is correct. Presented, that's unpresented. Oh, I take that back. Present, so then just presented, so you just put it underneath. Like so. Presented in neat categories, in neat categories. Let's put this on the line below. Neat categs, funny name. It would force them to make sense of what they encounter. It would force them to make sense of what they encounter. Of what they encounter. Hyphen. And that would make them really learn it. And that would make them really learn it. All right. So now we go back and we reread that paragraph. Go ahead and save the file at this point. Zoom out, zoom, jump on over to the previous paragraph, zoom in, find the paragraph marker, which is, where are you, paragraph marker? Which is where? Zoom out. I'm looking. Where are you? It would be surprising. Hopefully I left a paragraph marker. It would be surprising if teachers, that's the portion, it would be surprising. It would be. There's yet. It would be surprising. There we go. And I need to go ahead and put a little paragraph marker in there. Boom, boom, boom. Like so. Grab our, all right, here we go. It would be surprising if teachers changed the, and I'm having a little bit of a panic attack. Let me see here. Changed. Let me see. Is it... Yep, change is just the CH. There we go. Like I've said before, Gregg kind of surprises me how brief it really is. Changed the topic in the middle of a lesson. I need to check both middle and lesson just to confirm. Middle is not... That's interesting. Middle is not in the dictionary, but I will go ahead and add it later. Because it's not there, I'm going to assume that that is a good form for middle of the... Now I need to also check lesson. And that is lesson. Good. And zoom down just a little bit here. Middle of a lesson. Moving on to the next chapter before anyone had the chance to really understand the first one, only to come back to the previous topic later. It would be also unexpected. It would also be unexpected to test the students' that's not comprehension, constantly as after? Constantly, halfway. Oh, I forgot the H, the aspirate. That's what it was. There we go. There's our H. Half of the time about things that were not even mentioned yet. But as much as it would probably annoy the students, it would annoy the students who are, let's go put a little dot here, who are used to, and let's go ahead and put this here, used to having the material presented. We're used to having their material presented in neat categories. It would force them to make sense of what they encounter, and that would make them really learn it. All right, next we have a block quote from Bjork, 2011, page 8. Okay, so manipulations such as variation. So we'll drop a quote here. Manipulations. That's going to be manipulations. Manipulations. I'm not sure exactly how that is required. There's manipulate. So then manipulations. Ulations, I don't know how that ending is supposed to go. So what we'll do is we know the first portion, which is m in, and then manip right here. Okay. 3 strokes long. Oh, come on. There's manip. And now what I need to do is I need to check ulation. So we go over here and we're going to check for ulation. And ulation, if it's disjointed, it is just the U hook and then a shun symbol. So we drop this, we drop the U hook, and then shun. Manipulation, and that is then plural as well, so you do an S. Manipulations such as variation, such as variation. Now we did variation. Let's see if that's variation. I think it has a dot, doesn't it? Yes, it does require a dot on the end. So we'll go ahead and change that here. There we go. We're going to add we're going to go var, like that. Variation. Manipulations such as variation, spacing. Move this over here. Going to go spacing, introducing contextual interference, so introducing, I believe that would be deucing. Let's see if that's correct. And yes, that is correct. The N can be a little bit smaller. So we'll make that a little smaller here. Introducing. There we go. Contextual interference. So we have contextual. Let's see what contextual is. Contextual is not a word. Contextual. If we do contextual, would be contextual. Question is, now that one right there, a disjointed L is usually, is that used for Yule? Let's see. Let's go back over here to the dictionary and we check UAL, actual, dual, mutual. Every single form has a joined L. So we're going to need to do the same thing here. We'll just try and keep the X pronounced enough that it's clear from the context, no pun intended, of what it is supposed to be, the word-wise. So contextual, like so. All right. With that, I'm going to go ahead and add that to the dictionary as well. Contextual. Okay. Introducing contextual interference. So interference is also, we did introducing and then interference. Interference, like so. Interference. Okay. And for this one, we do need to put, the N is a little bit shorter, and it does also, oh, let's straighten this up a little bit. There we go. Interference, like so. There's interference, all right? Manipulations introducing contextual interference and using tests rather than presentations, so, comma, and using tests rather than presentations. So this is presentations. As learning events, as learning events, comma, all share and share, you take the SH and then you flip it back around on the other side. Let's see if that's correct. Oh, man, you flip it on the left side. So if you curve down, you flip on the other side, on the opposite side of writing. If you're coming down, you flip on the opposite right side of writing. All share the property, and then now we do property, which is proper, and then maybe just an E on the end for property. No, it's PRP and then a T value under that. So let's go ahead and fix this here. PRP and then T. Property. They appear, all share the property that they appear during the learning process. That they appear during the learning. So let's go ahead and straighten this up here just a little bit more. During the learning process. Okay, let me go ahead and check up here. And that is correct. Good. During the learning process. Interesting that they put the P a little bit more forward, so we'll do the same thing here, like that. There's a peer during the learning process. To impede learning. To impede learning. It would be impaired. Impede. See if that's impede. Yes, to impede learning. Okay. But they then often enhance learning. So comma. But they then often enhance learning. But they then often enhance learning. Enhance learning. So enhance. It's going to be enhance, like so, with an H over the top, probably. Enhance. Let's see if that is correct. Oh, it does require an E at the beginning, okay? There we go. So there is enhance. Learning as measured by post-training tests. They enhance learning as measured. Measure. So this one would be measured, I believe. Let's check. Yep, that's correct. As measured by post-training tests. By post no, post is the line above. That's right. It's a prefix. Post training. We'll need to move this down to the next line. So we'll go post training tests of retention and transfer. Then we need retention, so we go retention. I think, because it's interesting that retention. Yep, it curves the other way, just like written. So written and retention are the same. The only difference is that retention has a stroke on the top. So there's retention. And transfer. So we go and then trans is the TS over the top, and then fur, FR. So we go transfer, like so. Curve that just a little bit more. So there's transfer. Let's confirm that that is the case as well. And that is correct. Now it's not TS, it's just T. So let's go ahead and put that here as the prefix for trans, and then we go ahead and give the F and then curve the R underneath. Okay. Conversely, manipulations such as keeping conditions constant. So there you go. So conversely is con, and then versely. See if that's correct. Converse, and then is the other one conversant? Yeah, so that's just converse and then conversely. Okay, let's clean this up just a little bit. So we're going to go conversely, comma, manipulations such as keeping conditions. Manipulations. Didn't we just do this? It was man, so we need M in P and then U and then U shuns for manipulations. And didn't I did not add that. I do need to add that to the dictionary. Manipulation. Cheers. Okay, so that's manipulations. So conversely, manipulations such as keeping conditions. So we have such, and such is the backwards S, such as go keeping, and then conditions, constant and predictable, constant is just cons, isn't it? Nope, it's constant. Constant. There we go. Constant and predictable. And then next line down, we're going to do predictable. So we're going to go PR. Oh, yep, okay, I think I remember this one. This is PRE, predict. That's prediction. So predictable would simply add the B to it. Like that. Predictable. Let's go ahead and see if that is correct. And that is indeed correct. Good. So there's predictable. And massing trials on a given task. And massing trials on a given task, comma. Often, is that a comma? No, that's not. Sorry. On a given task, undo, often appear to enhance the rate. Often appear to enhance. There's our enhance again. So we need enhance. That's a dot over the top. The rate of learning. The rate of learning during instruction or training, during instruction or training, but then typically fail to support. By the way, is that instruction? Yes, good, good. So now the IN, or the NS, really needs to be smaller. So there's instruction, like so, okay? Instruction or training, comma, but then typically fail, comma, but then, then typically. So this is going to be typical, and then collie is going to be, I think that's going to be the circle, right? Because typical would then be the outside K, and typically is the circle. Let's see if that's correct. Tippe. That's what I'm missing, so I go typical. Okay, so we don't have typically. We have typical, but if I go Cali, all of the... Oh, I see, yes. Cali is just the KE. Just KE, okay? Like magnetically, as you see. So we can do... Typically is just the typical, which is TIPK, and then we just add an E for typically, all right? Typically fail to support long-term retention. Typically fail, there's fail, to, and then support long-term. Oh, long-term retention and transfer. Retention is, oh yes, retention is like written. I remember that now. Retention and transfer, like so. All right, and that one was Bjork 2001, page 8. That was the end of the quote, and Bjork is going to be Bjork, Bjork. There we go, Bjork. Yeah, that works. 2011, page number 8. All right. It's always fun to get these different authors, because then they have different vocabularies which you don't notice right off, but when you're hand copying, you start working with words and phrases that are new and kind of fun to help build into the hand. So what I need is manipulations is what we're looking for. So I'm going to go back over here, and here's the beginning of the quote, which should be, yeah, there's manipulations, so I need to make sure I put a paragraph marker there. And let us begin. On manipulations. Grab our little highlighter, and we go. Manipulations such as variations, such as variations, support spacing, introducing contextual interference, and using tests rather than presentations as learning events, all share the I'll share the what? The property. I'll share the property that they appear during the learning process to impede learning, but they then often enhance learning as what? As measured by post-training tests of what was that? Post-training of retention and transfer. Conversely, manipulations such as keeping conditions constant and predictable, and massing trials on a given task often appear to enhance the rate of learning during instruction or during instruction or training, but then typically fail to support. Oh, superort. There we go. I just realized I miswrote one of the curves, one of the forms. Superort is support. Yep. Undo. Superort. To support long-term retention and transfer, and that one was from Bjork 2008 or 2011, page 8. So essentially what he's saying is that the types of essentially the type of learning modality that students complain about most when they have to do it, things like pop quizzes, variation, spacing, anything that kind of adds friction to the learning process. It turns out that after the training procedure is over, when students are tested, it's found that they understand the material that had more friction. They understand that material more effectively rather than the material that was what's the term he gave it? He gave constant, predictable, easy to understand, that sort of stuff. Those sorts of learning modalities, the constant, predictable, easy, spaced learning paradigms, are not as useful. In the long term for the students. In the short term, it seems like you're learning a lot, but in the long term, you're not learning as much. So that's fascinating how that happens. I know that in my own learning history, like with music practice in particular, I find that I would make the best strides in music practice if I took the time to jump around. So you practice one little section, and then you jump to another section, and then you jump back, and you jump back and back, and so on and so forth, and you're constantly changing and adding variation. And what would happen is it would cut your learning time down almost by half. So from my own practice, I have found this to be true. All right, moving forward. When we try to answer a question before we know how to, here's our next paragraph. When we try to answer a question before we know how to. When we try to answer a question before we know how to, before we know how to, comma, we will later remember the answer better. We will later remember the answer better, comma, even if our attempt failed. Now that's key. Even if our attempt failed. Like so, all right? Arnold and McDermott, 2013. So that's Arnold, which is going to be Arnold Arnold and McDermott. So we go Mick and then Dermott. So this is D. Dermont. All right. 2013. 2013. And we close down the parenthesis. But, oh no, if we put effort into the attempt of retrieving information, let's go ahead and add another line, save the page. We're currently on, we have 2.5 pages left, and then we are done with section 10, which is really fun. So let's go ahead and add another page. And this is how to take smart notes, section 10, page 19. All right, we go back up here to the previous line, and that one was 2013. If we put effort into the attempt, so this is if we put effort into the attempt of retrieving information, comma, we are much more likely to remember it. So let's jump over to the next column. We are, let's go ahead and do a phrase there. We are much more likely to remember it. And is that a sentence? Nope, in the long run. In the, oh, there we go. In the long run. Even if we fail to retrieve it without help in the end, comma. Even if we need help, even if we fail to retrieve it without help in the end, we're more likely to remember it in the long run, even if we fail to retrieve it without help in the end. Even if we fail to retrieve it without help in the long run. In the end. Okay? Period. Oh no, that was Roediger and Karpik, 2006. Okay? Roediger and Karpik. Roediger. Roediger. Oh, don't have enough room. Let's do it down below. Roediger and Karpik. Maybe. Copic, and that was 2006. That's actually one reason why when I'm doing these strokes, I'm attempting as much as I can to try and I attempt to do the stroke first, and then I go and I check to see, because I know that in that process, essentially I'm trying to put the idea into practice. Even if I make a mistake, it's better for me to go through the mistake and then fix it in the end, than if I were to constantly go straight to the reference and really circumvent the learning process, okay? Because ultimately, at the end of the day, it's all about the learning process. Everything should be there to enhance your learning. Everything should be there. Because, you only have so much time, and you don't want to be wasting your time. So that's why, everything, that's essentially what this stream is all about. It's an experimentation to put into practice the very things that Sonke Ahrens is writing about in his book, the things that I've learned in my own experience, and this is the process. I have this skill, shorthand, which I believe is going to be useful in the long run when it comes to academic training, but I don't have it for certain. And so therefore the best thing for me to do is to use all of the learning paradigms that I have acquired and bring them to bear and see if it works. See if it works. The proof is in the pudding. And now going on, even without any feedback, even without any feedback, we will be better off if we try to remember, comma, we will be better off if we try to remember something ourselves. There we go, down and then out. Ourselves, and that one was according to Yang et al. 2012. Yang, so, or maybe Zhang? Ooh, I'll figure out how to pronounce his name. So that's Zhang et al. 2012. So that one was, I go to the back of the book, and the bibliography is laid out in alphabetical order. QRS, so I'm looking for Jane. Jane or Yang, because it starts with a J. CDHIJ. There we go. Jang. Wunhee Jane. Yeah, so it is an Asian. It's an Asian last name, so therefore it is going to be pronounced as Jane. If it were German, then it would be Yang. All right, so we go Jane, like so. Jane, and then we have et al. 2012. 2012. Okay. Going on. The empirical data is pretty unambiguous. The empirical, so this is going to be M, peer, and then a disjointed K for ical. Empirical. Let's see if that's correct. And the only thing that is necessary is to add an E in the center. There we go. So there's empirical. The empirical data is pretty unambiguous. Is pretty, so P-R-E, whoopsie, there we go. Oh, yeah. Pretty unambiguous. Let me check and see if that's pretty. And yes, that is correct. The P needs to be just a little bit more advanced here. There we go. Is pretty unambiguous. Unambiguous. This is unambig. Nambig, right? I think we said we didn't need unambiguous. Like so. Unambiguous. Let's see if that's unambiguous. Now, of course, we need just ambiguous. And that is exactly what it is. No, the only difference is it doesn't need the us ending. It's just unambig. So we go big, like so. All right, is pretty unambiguous. But these learning strategies do not necessarily feel right, comma, but these learning strategies, wasn't that strategies? Let's see if that's correct. Oh, no, that's statistics. Statistics is the STST. I think strategy is STRAG, and then it flips towards the line of writing, right? And then down. Let's see if that's correct. Strategy. Oh, it does require the T. That is correct. That is correct. So let's go ahead and add that here. So we go strategies, like so, okay? So there is strategies. Do not necessarily feel right. Do not necessarily. So we have necessar, and then if you add that, that's necessarily, I believe, is just the E added. Let's check. And that is indeed the case. Good. So that's necessarily. Do not necessarily feel right. Feel right. Period. Intuitively, most students resort to cramming. Intuitively. So this one was the intuitive. I remember this one's interesting. It's intuitive. Intuitive, is that what it is? If we go intuitive. Let's see if that is intuitive. Yes, and then we just add an E ending. The only thing is that it does require a true TV. So we'll go intuitively, add an E ending. There we go. Intuitively, comma, most students resort to cramming. So we go resort to KR cramming. Okay. Need to make sure that resort doesn't have a flipped S. So let me check that. And, it doesn't have a flipped S, but it does require us to put a slight break between the S and the O value. So we'll do that here. Slight break, up, and then out. So this is resort to cramming. All right? Which is just another term, comma, which is just another term, which is just another term for reading something again and again. Reading, oh, down here. Reading something again and again. Is that a period? No. It continues. In a failed attempt to learn it. Straighten this up. In a failed attempt to learn it. And then we have the quote from Dunlosky et al. 2013. New line. So we open up our parenthesis, open up the parenthesis, and now we have Dunlosky. Okay? So Dunlosky, that is D on, that would be done. And then Losky is going to be Losske. Losky. Now the question is, SKY, does the S stay with the K value or does it stay with the L value? So let me go ahead and search that in the dictionary. And I searched that by going SKY. The SKY is going to give me every instance of the ending. We have whiskey, which would automatically throw the S in connection with the K. We have sky itself, which is the S goes with K. Skylark, skyward, skylight, and these are all the endings that we have of SKY. So I'm definitely seeing some bias against the, what would that be, the polls, right? So let's see, Dunlosky. I think that it probably would be better to curve the S with the K and the E. So let's go ahead and change that here. In the name, Dunlosky, so we have an L, O, and then S, K, E, like so. Dunlosky. And do the proper noun. Okay. Et al. 2013. Et al. And then 2013. Curving away from the line of writing. And then we close the bracket. And as much as rereading doesn't help, so comma, and as much as rereading doesn't help with learning, comma, so with learning, it certainly doesn't help. And as much as rereading doesn't help with learning, it certainly doesn't help with understanding. So, comma, it certainly doesn't help with understanding. It certainly doesn't help with understanding. Admittedly, cramming does get information into your head. So admittedly, admittedly, that's going to be ADM, admittedly, the E on the end. Let's see if that's correct. Nope, it is AM. So we have to do a long stroke for the D, for the TD. So we do this value here, and we go admittedly, like so. Admittedly. All right? Admittedly, comma, cramming, K-R-A, cramming does get information into your head. Does get information into your head for a short while. For a short while. Usually long enough to stay in there to pass a test. That's funny. Usually long enough to stay in there to pass a test. To pass a test. But cramming won't help you learn. But cramming won't help you learn. Won't help you learn. And as Terry Doyle and Todd Zakrajek, so that's the line, as Terry Doyle, as, so we've already seen Doyle and Zakrajek as Terry, so Terry Doyle and Todd Zakrajek. So this is the Zakrajek. Zakrajek. Put it. So this is, we could have to put it. Get to do our little brief phrase. If learning is your goal, cramming is an irrational act. So open quotes. If learning is your goal, comma, cramming is an irrational. So this is the E. We add an E to the beginning and we go rash. So we go irrational, like so. Let's go ahead and check to see if that is correct. And that is correct, except we don't need to have the in. So we can do everything before that. We go fix this here, come on. There we go. Rational. So we go irrational, like so. It is an irrational act. Like that. We close the quote, and then we open brackets, and we give the reference, which is Doyle and Zakrajek. So we have Doyle and Zakrajek, 2013. All right, close that, and that one was our paragraph. They claim this quote is from John et al., 2012, but I couldn't find it there. Anyway, it's a good way to put it. Haha. That's cute. That is super cute. So Sonke Ahrens has a little footnote down here where he is so he's quoting Terry Doyle and Todd Zakrajek, and he says they claim, so talking about Doyle and Zakrajek, they claim this quote is from Jane et al. 2012, but I couldn't find it there. Anyway, it's a good way to put it. So cute, so cute. That's the one thing I really like about Sonke's writing is it has an innocence, a cuteness about it. They claim this quote is from Jane et al. So this is the square bracket. They claim, we'll do KLAM, that this quote is from Jane et al., which we've already seen. That was the one previous. Jane et al. 2012. But I couldn't find it there, comma. But I could not find it there. Period. Anyway, it's a good way to put it. Anyway, colon, it's a good way to put it. That is true. And the quote once again that he's referring to is from Terry Doyle and Todd Zakrajek, who said, "If learning is your goal, cramming is an irrational act." All right, so that was the paragraph. Now let's go ahead and go back and reread the paragraph to review the strokes for shorthand and confirm that everything is laid out as it should be. So that one was Dunlosky 2013, so it's earlier than that. There's the 2012, 2006. And where is my paragraph marker? I'm looking for when we try to answer a question. Probably even earlier. It was after our quote here by Bjork. And we're looking, there it is. So here's our paragraph marker, and we start. When we try to answer a question before we know how to, we will later remember the answer better, even if our attempt failed. And that one was according to Arnold and McDermott, 2013. If we do what? If we put, that P needs to be just a little bit more pronounced. Almost looks like a TH. So there we go. If we put, there's a put symbol. If we put effort into the attempt of retrieving information, next column, we are much more likely to remember. In the long run, remember it in the long run. Even if we fail to retrieve it without help in the end. And that was according to what is that? Is that Roediger? Yes, that's Roediger. And Karpik, I believe, yes, and Karpik, 2006, okay? Going forward, even without any feedback, we will be better off if we try to remember something ourselves, and that is according to Jane 2000 et al. 2012. The On this one, the I don't remember this. Okay, so that was after the Jane et al. So that's empirically, by the way. So we'll try that again. The empirical is the empirical data. So I need to move that down. I can erase these two, which that is pretty. Yeah, so we can do data before we do is pretty. Data is pretty, and then unambiguous. But by these learning strategies, these learning strategies do not necessarily feel right. Intuitively, most students resort to cramming or crammage, cramming, which is just another term for reading something again and again in a failed attempt to learn it, and that is according to Donlosky et al. 2013. And as much as rereading does not help with learning, it certainly does not help. And let's go ahead and put a little here, a little help. It certainly does not help with understanding. Going on, this is admittedly, cramming does get information into your head for a short while, usually long enough to stay in there to pass a test. But cramming will not help you long, but cramming will not help you learn. As Terry Doyle and Todd, let's go ahead and do double quotes here for that, for his name. Todd Zakrajek put it, if learning is your goal, cramming is a irrational act. And that was Doyle, right? Doyle and Zakrajek, 2013. And then he has a little footnote. He says, they claim that this quote is from Jane et al. 2012, but I can't find it there. Anyway, it's a good way to put it. All right, so that's that paragraph. Moving on. Instead of reviewing a text, you could just as well play a round of ping pong. Oh, man. Oh, he's brutal. Here we go. instead of reviewing a text, so we go instead of reviewing instead of reviewing text, comma, you could just as well play a round of ping pong. You could just as well play a round of ping pong. So we're going to go ping, right? Or would that to ping something? Let's see what that is. It may not even be in the dictionary. Oh, look at that. Ping pong's in there. Oh, that's cute. It's exactly what I needed. Ping pong. So here we go. Ping pong. You could just as well play a round of ping pong. In fact, chances are it would help you more, comma. Chances are it would help you more. Chances are it would it would help you more because exercise helps to transfer information. So it would help you more, underlined, because exercise helps to transfer. So we go exercise. That's is that a double? Exercise. Let's see, exercise. Let's take a look at that. EXR, and the EX is on the front. I think we saw that earlier today. Exercise. Exercise helps to transfer information into long-term memory. Exercise helps to transfer memory, helps to transfer information into long-term memory. All right. And that one was according to Rady 2008. Confiture Rady. Rady 2008. 2008. Okay. Plus, exercise reduces stress. Let me get a little drink of water. Okay. All right. So we'll just continue here. Plus, exercise reduces stress. So moving on. Plus, exercise reduces stress. So that was after the Rady quote, period. Plus, comma, exercise reduces stress. So that one would probably be reduces. Let's see if that's reduce. It's inside the quote, or it's inside the line of writing. So we'll fix that. Come on, there we go. Reduces, exercise reduces stress. Okay? Which is good because stress floods our brains, comma, which is good. Which is good because stress floods our brains. Because stress floods our brains. Floods our brains with hormones. With hormones. That's going to be H-O hormones, like that. All right. That suppress learning processes. That suppress. S-U-P-R-S. Let's see if that's correct. It's going to be so, maybe curves back in. That suppress. Let's see if that's suppress. Nope. Oh, it's super S. Oh, that's clever. Another clever one from Gregg. We had super ort, and now we have super S. So double S. To suppress learning processes. Learning processes. And that one was processes. That is Baram et al. 2008. Okay, so we go curves back in. So we have Baram et al. And that is 2008. Okay, 2008. Close parenthesis. And then, so that was the quote, and then that was the paragraph. So we're going to start back at instead. So right here is where we begin. Instead of reviewing a text you could just as well play a round of ping pong. In fact, chances, let's make this just a little longer. There we go. In fact, chances are it would help you more because exercise helps to transfer information into long-term memory. That's according to Confitur Rati, 2008. And then he goes on where he says, practice? No, plus. Ooh, I need to check plus. That looks like practice. That is correct. It's just that it shouldn't curve up quite as high, which is why it was throwing me off. If it curves up too high, it looks like a K value. So need to bring this down and then out like this. That's plus. Plus, going on, exercise reduces stress, which is good because stress Floods. Floods. Let's check flood. Nothing on flood, but that makes sense. Flood. FLD. Let's go ahead and maybe make the curve just a little bit more clear. So we're going to go flood. FL. Curve out just a little more. And then we'll make a slight break. Dud. Yeah, flood. So we go FL. FLUD. Floods our, so stress, it says, stress floods our brains with hormones that suppress learning processes. And that one was Baram, that quote was Baram et al. 2008, or the reference there. All right, so moving on, next paragraph. In short, pure reviewing, so here we go, new paragraph. In short, pure reviewing. In short, pure reviewing. So pure is PU, I think. I don't think it requires the R. Let's go ahead and check. No, it's it's a diphthong. Pure. Of course. Pure is P-U. Pure. Reviewing. So we go reviewing. It just doesn't make any sense. Just doesn't make any sense. Comma. Neither for understanding nor for learning. Neither for understanding nor for learning. Nor for learning. Period. It is debatable if we even call it learning. That's a good point. It is debatable. It is, and then debatable. So that's debate, and then a B below that should be debatable. Unless, oh, that could be an actual, that could be D-E-B-A-T, but we'll go ahead and check. That's debate, and then a bull, and then debatability, debated, debater. Yes, so what we do is we take debate, and then we simply add the B value to get debatable, okay? So let's move the whole structure up just a little higher, and we go debate, and then B added to that becomes debatable, all right? It is debatable if we even call it learning. If we even call it learning, period, and that's the sentence. All right. I will be back shortly. All right, so back at it. And what was that? We had just finished learning, right? In short, pre-reviewing just doesn't make any sense, neither for understanding nor for learning. It is debatable if we even call it learning. All right? So now, it is not surprising, therefore, it's the next section. It is not surprising, therefore, let's move forward. It is not surprising, therefore. Let's add another page. Hopefully this is the last one. This is page 20. We'll probably end up with 21 pages, but we'll see. How to take smart notes. This is still section 10, and this is page number 20. Okay. Going back over here. It is not surprising therefore, therefore, that the best researched and most successful learning method, that the best researched and most successful successful is, there you go, learning method is elaboration. Learning method is elaboration. Period. It is very similar to what we do when we take smart notes. It is very, and then simal, right? I think similar was simal. Let's move this down to, or move it over to the next paragraph here. Similar, so we go simal for similar. Simal. There we go. See if that's correct or not. Similar. It's just an E. So it's EE. S-E-M-E. S-E-M-E. Similar. Very similar to what we do when we take smart notes. To what we do when we take smart notes. Very similar. And combine them with others. And then combine them with others. Let me confirm combine. That's correct. And them can afford to be just a little longer. And combine them with others, which is the opposite of mere reviewing. So comma. Which is the opposite, of mere review. Let's fix this up a little bit. We go reviewing. And that was Stein et al. 1984. Stein et al. 1984. And that was a sentence. Then we have elaboration means nothing other. So here we go. We have elaboration means nothing other, means nothing other than really thinking about the meaning of what we read. It means nothing other than really thinking about the meaning of what we read, comma, how it could inform different questions. How it could, we'll do it could inform different questions and topics, and how it could, and topics, and topics, and how it could be combined with other knowledge, and how it could be combined with other knowledge. Other knowledge. Period. In fact, writing for learning, in fact, writing for learning is the name, and that's a title actually, so quote, writing for learning, close quote, is the name of a quote, elaboration method. Is the name for an elaboration method. And that was quote on the elaboration method. And that was Gunnar, Hand, and Prain, 2007. So we open parens, and that one was Gunnar. So we go Gunnar, comma, hand, comma, and pain. And pain, 2007. And that moves towards. There we go. All right. Period. But there is a caveat. But there is a, and then caveat. So that's caveat. Caveat, maybe? Let's look up caveat. Caveat is not in there. Oh, is it necessary, really? Caveat, maybe? For caveat, that would be ca. I think we probably could go caveat, like that. Caveat. Caveat for caveat. And I'll go ahead and add it to the dictionary for later. All right, so there's caveat. And moving back forward, so Even enough elaboration, even though elaboration works verifiably well, that's period, so we go even though elaboration works verifiably well, works verifiable. Verify is going to be if, oh, and then phi. Phi is this, and then we have a B after that for verifiable. I think it would just be verif, so it'd be ver if, and then bool ending. Let's go ahead and take a look and see. Verify. That's verification. So we would need verify. And that is correct. So verifiable would then simply be it was the B added to the F stroke, and you get verifiable. Okay? So we curve the V down. We have the E, F, and then B, verifiable. Even though elaboration works verifiably, and then we add a little E on the end, it works verifiably well for deep understanding. Well, for deep understanding, comma, it might not be the best choice. It might not be the best choice. Oh, choice is upside down. There we go. Choice. And why is that? If you just want to learn isolated encyclopedic facts. Oh, that's a dig. If you want to learn, if you just want to learn isolated encyclopedic facts. Isolated was the isolated facts. And that one is according to Rivard, 1994. So we have good friend Riv, and then Ard switches back on the other side for the R stroke, and that's 1994. All right. But as long as you are not striving for a career, but as long as you are not striving for, and then what's career? Career, probably? Let's take a look and see. Oh. Career. Yep, there we go. There's career. Career. Alrighty. The K and the R should not be quite as pronounced. They're a little more smoothed out when they're together. So a career, as long as you're not striving for a career as a quiz show candidate, as a quiz, would that be it? Quiz show. Let's look up quiz. Ah, it's an E put inside the curve. So we go E curved inside S and then the line underneath. And then we have show. Quiz, show, and then candidate. We've done this already. See if I can remember it. It's going to be candidate. I think it was that, right? We go can, and then we curve out, and then a D, and then a T on the end. So let's take a look and see if that's correct. Can, is it candidate? Because it's K-A-N-D, there it is. Yes, K-A-N-D-I-D-A-T. And that is exactly what that's exactly how you're supposed to do it. So, very nice. As long as you are not striving for a career as a quiz show candidate, why would you want that? oh, oh, Sonke. Why would you want that anyway? Oh my goodness. Ah, okay. Why would you want that anyway? Oh man. Anyway, question mark. The slip box takes care of storing facts and information. The slip box takes care of storing facts and information. Takes care of storing facts and information. Thinking and understanding is what it can't take off your shoulders. Is what it can't take off your, and then shoulders is shoulders. Would it be shoulders? Let's check and see if that is correct. No. There we go. Shoulders. Let's go to the dictionary. Shoulder. Okay, so it does require the R at the end. So we go shoe, and it's shoulder. So S-H-O-L-D, and then R, and then S. So there's shoulders, your shoulders, comma, which is why it makes sense, comma, which is why it makes sense. Let's move down here, and that is a it makes sense to focus on this part of the work. To focus on this part of the work. Really, the human part of the work. That's why, once again, that's why you can't use a lot of aids like AI in your work for this reason. This makes a lot of sense. The thinking is that's the human element. The human has to think. All right? To focus on this part of the work. That it facilitates learning as well is a nice side effect. That it, and then facilitates. So we go facilitates. Let's see if that's tates. That's facility. So facilitate. There we go. Almost. There's an E, and then the TA flips on the back side. So we go facilitates, and then we add the S below for the plural. Facilitates, that it facilitates learning as well is a nice side effect. Facilitates learning as well is a nice, is a, oh, undo, come on, there we go, is a nice side effect. Oh, and effect does not require the T. That's right. I can go ahead and remove that, change that here. It's a nice side effect. Lumen almost never read a text twice. Wow, that right there is wonderful. Lumen never read a text. Almost never. Lumen almost never read a text twice. Twice is a oh, that one's an interesting one. I think, isn't it twice? I mean, that's definitely a diphthong. It's not tice. It would be two twice. Let's see if we can find twice. Ah, it is. Oh, okay. All right, it's tice, and then you just put a line underneath to make it twice. All right, so we go twice, like that. And that was according to Hagen 1997. So we'll open parentheses and we do Hagen. Hagen. So we're going to do, he never read a text twice. And that was according to Hagen, H-A-G-N, 1997, right? Yes, 1997. 97, close parenthesis, and was still regarded as an impressive conversation partner. And was still regarded as an impressive, so this is impressive. Let's see if that's impressive. Beautiful, that's it. Was regarded as an impressive conversation partner. And here we go, this is version. They may require this sation at the end, so that would be conversation. Let's take a look and see if that's correct. Nope, no need. It's just converse and then a shun ending. Converse shun. Converse shun. An impressive conversation partner. Partner is parter. Let's see. Partner. Nope, you'd have to add the in and then the in-er. So partner, who seems to have all information ready to hand. That's a good note right there. Who seemed to have all information ready to hand. Ready to hand. Period. And there's a quote here. according to different personal encounters. So here there's no real quote. He's just saying that this was from people he spoke to. According to different personal, is that personal? Let's take a look and see if that's personal. Oh, person and personal, of course. Oh yeah, I had forgotten that. They are the same stroke. So it's person and personal are the same, according to different personal encounters. Encounters. And that's a square bracket, and that's the end of page 87. So now we go on to the next page, page 88, and with this, we're actually going to be able to finish section 10, which is lovely, lovely. So this is the last section for section 10. That's fun. All right. Working with the slip box. Oh, actually, wait. I have to... before I go on, I'm getting carried away with myself. Before I do that, I have to go back and read the previous paragraph. All right. So let's go over and do that. It is not surprising, therefore. So let's go ahead and zoom out. We go over back to the previous section. This was, there's 94, which was before that. That's Rivard. 2007, I'm looking at the dates. It is not surprising. There's 1984. There's Stein, 1984. So it is not surprising is what I'm looking for. And that's in short. In short. And that was a very short section. There we go. And this is the beginning, which means I need to go ahead and drop a paragraph marker at this location here. And we begin highlighting. We'll do a highlighter, and here is it is not. It is not surprising, therefore, that the best researched, and I need to check before I go on, I need to check and make sure that the S curves that way. Beautiful, that's it. The best researched, and that should be hyphenated. Good. Best researched and most successful learning method is elaboration. It is very, and then similar is on our next line. It is very similar to what we do when we take smart notes and combine them with others, which is the opposite. Yeah, opposite. Let me check and make sure that's opposite. OPOS. That is correct, which is the opposite of mere reviewing, and that was Stein et al. 1984. Elaboration means, need to have an S in there. There we go. Means nothing other than really thinking about the meaning of what we read. How it could inform different questions and topics, and how it could be combined with other knowledge. In fact, writing for learning is the main Writing for learning is the name for a, quote, elaboration method, and that one was according to the names Gunnar and Gunnar Hand, there's Hand, and Payne, and that's 2007. But there is a caveat. Caveat. Even though elaboration works, um, even though elaboration works verifiably well for what? For deep, oh yeah, there we go. For deep understanding, it might not be the best, the best study, no, the best choice if you just want to learn encyclopedic facts, and that's according to Rivard 1994. But as long as you are not striving for um, a career as a quiz show, um, as a quiz show candidate, why would you want that anyway? Why would you want that anyway? That still gets me. What a dig. All right, I'll be back in just a second. Hold up. Excuse me. Okay, so let me go ahead and jump back in over to the line. There we go. Gregg website. All right, we're set. Ready, ready, ready. It says the chat was disconnected. Let me see here. This. Yeah? Oh, it's connected now. Interesting. Interesting. Okay. Well, as I was saying, I've got about 36 minutes left, so I was reading through the line, correct? So let's go ahead and jump back in. Jump back in over here. Bada boom, bada bang. Right. So we were on 1994. So let's proceed. So we were on 1994. Or no, 1994? Should be Stein 1984. No, that was a Rivard. Yeah, Rivard 1994. Ah, yes. Anyway, the slip box takes care of storing facts. So we'll get there. Where was the slip box? There we go. The slip box takes care of storing facts and information. Thinking and understanding is what it cannot take off your shoulders, which is why it makes sense to focus on this part of the work. That is that wood? Let's see here. Working with the slip box, therefore, doesn't mean storing information there. Oh, did I jump a line or what? I must have. Working with the slip box, that's the work. And then working with the slip box. Did I drop a line or something? Oh, that's interesting. Where did the line go? Working with the slip box therefore doesn't mean storing it. On the contrary, working with the slip box. That was 97. Hold on. Where is it? It's page 20. 94. It makes sense to focus on that part of the work. Oh, hold on. This is 97. Where was 97? What is this? Facilitates. Where's facilitates? Facilitates learning as well as a nice, hold on, according to different, oh, I see what I did. Oh, okay. I failed to jump to the next paragraph. Aha. Wow. Okay. Well, I will leave off here then. I'm not sure how that happened. He was a successful, where was that? Oh, hold on. Did I jump? I jumped the page too quickly. That's what it was. That it facilitates. There we go. That it facilitates. Now that almost looks like a D, so let's go ahead and fix that. I had jumped too far. And there's reconnected, huh? I wonder why the chat drops out like that. That's interesting. That it, and then we'll go on now, that it facilitates learning as well is a nice, is a nice, is a nice side effect. Lumen almost never read a text twice. That was according to Hagen 1997, and was still regarded as an impressive conversation partner who seemed to have all information ready at hand. And that was to according to different personal accounts. There we go. Now we are going over to take a look at page 88. Okay, so here we are, working with the slip box, therefore, and this is the new line. So we're going to go working with the slip box, therefore doesn't mean storing information. So therefore doesn't mean storing information in there instead of in your head. It doesn't mean storing information there instead of your head. Instead of your head, i.e. not learning. So comma, i.e. I guess for this we're just going to do the good old-fashioned I dot E there. Okay, and we'll just underline those, i.e. not learning. I can see that's why his idea of people using it, calling it like a second brain, is not, it's not correct. It's just, it's a different way of dealing with information. On the contrary, it facilitates real long-term learning. So we go on the, and then contrary, comma, it facilitates, so let's do facilitate again, facilitates real, and then scroll down, learning, real long-term learning, real and then long-term learning. Long-term learning, period. It just means not cramming. So here we go. It just means, not cramming isolated facts into your brain. So we go isolate. Here we go. Isolated. Let's check and see if that's isolated. Yes, that's isolated. Okay. And close enough. Isolated facts into your brain. Facts into your brain. Hyphen. Something you probably wouldn't want to do anyway. Something you probably. Probable is probably. I think that's probably, isn't it? Probabl. Oh, grab the whole thing. Probab. And then probably. Yes, that's correct. Probably. You probably wouldn't want to do anyway. You probably wouldn't want to do anyway. Anyway. Like so. Period. The objection that it takes too much time, and then objection that is it option? Let me check objection. Oh, it's just ob and then shun. The objection that it takes too much time to take notes and sort them, to take notes and sort them into the slip box, into the slip box is therefore short-sighted, is therefore short-sighted. Writing, taking notes and thinking. Writing, taking notes and thinking about, and thinking about how ideas connect, how ideas connect is exactly the kind of elaboration, is exactly the kind of elaboration that is needed to learn, that is needed to learn. Not learning from what we read, not learning from what we read because we don't take the time, because we don't take the time to elaborate on it. Let's add another. Actually, I don't think we need to add another paragraph. We'll just write this out. To elaborate on it because we don't take the time to elaborate on it. To elaborate on it is the real, is the, so let's do, is the real waste of time. Okay, there's our paragraph. So now let's go ahead and read back through it. About 22 minutes left. Very nice. That's the end of another section, which is really fun. That was 20 pages. 20 pages of notes. I I wonder when I first started working on number 10, section 10. All right, so let's go ahead and go back through, find the paragraph working with the slip box. It was on this side. There's IE, so we're close. There it is. So we start here. Working with the slip box, therefore, does not mean str does not mean storing, does not mean storing information there instead of in your head. So we need to go instead of in your head, i.e. learning on the i.e. not learning, period. Put a period marker there. And then here's our next one. On the contrary, it facilitates real long-term learning. It just means not cramming isolated facts into your brain, something you probably don't want to do anyway. The objection that it takes too much time to take notes and sort them into the slip box is therefore short-sighted. Writing, taking notes, and thinking about how ideas connect is exactly the kind of elaboration that is needed to learn. In learning from what we read, because we don't not learning from what we read because we don't take the time to elaborate on it is the real waste of time. Wow. Good words, good words. Okay, so now let's go ahead and finish out this last paragraph. And with that, we finish the section 10. So, fun stuff. Here we go. There is a clear division of labor between the brain and the slip box. There is a clear, and then division. So that's going to be division. Let's see if that is correct. Division, we have to add an E. So we go, there is a clear division of, and then labor. Labor. Let me check labor. That makes sense, but I just want to confirm. Labor. There is a clear division of labor between the brain and the slip box. Colon. The slip box takes care of details and references. The slip box takes care of details and references. and is a long-term memory resource, and is a long-term memory resource is a long-term memory resource. Let me check resource again. That's resource, good. Is a long-term memory resource that keeps information objectively unaltered. That keeps information objectively unaltered. That keeps information objectively. That's an O. That is a disjointed V, isn't it? Objectively. Let's check and see. That could be objectivity, though. Objective. Oh, that's objective. And then we just add an E to that to get the Lee. So we go. Oh, wait. Wow. Put that through. Save the page. Can definitely tell that Zernal is not liking this much work. So we go objectively. Unaltered. So we need unaltered. So that's unaltered. Unaltered. Let's see if that's correct. So we need to look up alter. Ah, it's even shorter. It is. It's just unalter. So unaltered, like so. Period. That allows the brain to focus on the gist. That allows the brain to focus on the gist. Okay. Maybe move the S down just a little further. On the gist. All right. Comma, the deeper understanding. The deeper understanding. And the bigger picture. And the bigger picture. Comma, and frees it up to be creative. And frees it up to be creative. Let's see if that is creative. A little bit more of a TF, and also curves the other way. So we go creative. There we go. Both the brain and the slip box can focus on what they are best at. So we go both the brain and the slip box can focus on what they are best at. On what they are best at. All right. And that finishes, my friends, that finishes section 10, or chapter 10 of Sonke Ahrens' book. So let's go ahead and read back over that. There is a clear division of labor. So we need that starting here. So we read over this. We have there is a clear division of labor between the brain and the slip box. The slip box takes care of details and references and is a long-term memory resource that keeps information objectively what is that? Objectively unaltered. That allows the brain to focus on the distinct, on the on just, on the what? On the gist. On the gist. The deeper understanding and the bigger picture. And freeze it up to be creative. Both the brain and the slip box can focus on what they are best at. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and export. I'm going to go ahead and export all of 210. 20 pages worth. That's really impressive. So we're going to go ahead and export as a PDF. We're going to put it over in finished copywork. This is the 4 underlying principles, the 6 steps to successful writing. Oh, interesting. So this is all the 6 steps to successful writing. Interesting. The Smart Notes. Read for understanding. So that's the section we just went over. Interesting, interesting. All right. So for right now, though, we're going to call this one 2.4, and this was 210. So we're just going to change the name, make it 210. Okay? 210.pdf. Wonderful, wonderful. And now what I need to do is we'll let it finish doing its thing. It's exporting right now. All right, so it exported properly, which means we're going to go ahead and open up the next window. We're going to open our template, and here's our new template. We're going to save this one as number 11. So let's go ahead and check. 11 is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 17 pages. So 17 pages will also end up being around 20 to 21 pages. We should be able to get away with doing it all in one document. If it starts to get a little bit squirrely, then we'll fix it at that point. But for right now, let's go ahead and save this as, we'll save it in How to Take Smart Notes. And 210 was made, I wonder when 210 was last done. Tuesday. So it looks like I worked on 210 all of Wednesday and, Wednesday and today. So that's good. And so this is 2:11. So this is going to be 2_11. Okay, and we'll save it. Oh, save its name up here. 2_11. And we save. Boom. And that's it. All right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm probably, because I've got about 10 minutes, I have about 7 minutes remaining, I'm going to go ahead and close down Zernal and add some words to the dictionary. So we'll close down Zernal and close down, or we'll leave that up. I'm going to open up GIMP and going to open up Inkscape, have those both ready to go. And dun. Yeah, all right. Inkscape, they're all ready to go. We just add more words. So we got this ready to go. I'm going to go ahead and call it quits for right now. I'm going to take a break, and I will be back shortly. So thank you again for watching. Hope you're having a wonderful day, and I will see you a little later. Bye-bye.